Hey everybody, this is Dark Guardsman. We're back with another video here. So the LDJAM Dare 42 is just started. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right. Actually, let me go pull up the site and I'll just, for those who have no clue what it is, I'll just show you the site and kind of what's going on before I get into what it is that I want to talk about. So they've got this game jam. I don't know too much about it when it comes to the actual details, but it's been going on for a while. They do these every so often, and they actually build basically games in a very short period of time. I think you get like 3 days to do it. I started in, I think, a bit late than when it originally started. I'm only 8 hours into development wise, but I'm going to be continuing here shortly to actually get everything going. But LDJAM Dare, yeah, game contest, and for this dare, the theme is to running out of space. That's basically it. The rules for the contest are pretty straightforward. You can pretty much do whatever you want. You don't even have to follow the theme. You get 72 hours to create this, so yeah. I started in a bit later, because I think it was like 2 days and something on there, so I've basically missed a day almost. Use any tool, use any library, any code base, basically you can do whatever you want. They do ask if you are picking up like assets and stuff, that you opt out, which is reasonable. I'm actually going to be opting out of audio and graphics probably myself. Basically, I don't really care to be voted on. I'm just doing this for the fun. But you can make a game. You can even make a board game if you wanted to, which I would love to see some people do board games. I'm not too familiar with the contest, but theoretically, there's a lot of cool stuff that happens. I've heard about it. I almost joined in on the last one, but the last one's theme was weird. It was like you had to do something that didn't fit together, I think is what it was. Anyway, so log in here, we'll look at my soon-to-be submission. I would say it's a submission because I haven't finished it yet. But for the game I'm working on, it's a really simple 2D game. Basically, I'm picking up off of what I already started with the tank game, if you've seen the videos for that. So the game is basically space is running out of space. Very simple concept. I thought about it when I was talking to people in the mod development Discord. I was like, you know what? I'm probably not going to join this. And then and a couple minutes later, I was like, you know, I think of an ideal. And I thought of an ideal of the concept that you're in orbit around a planet. The orbit is filling up with junk, debris, basically garbage. The current problem we actually do have in real life, it's not to the same severity, as we don't really have that huge of an issue with junk. But I think it's somewhere, I remember hearing like NASA tracks like 1 million objects floating around the planet that are just space debris. So I was like, you know what, let's take that and let's build a game concept with it. I came up with 2 ideals to start with. The first one was an arcade-based thing where you basically shot at junk. Think asteroids, but kind of a little bit better themed. And that was the other one was like we were building an RTS game where you collect junk. And then I went from that, I was like, you know what, let's take the first ideal and let's make it about breaking junk up into pieces and collecting it to clear space out, because space is running out of space, so you want to clear it out. And then I built up this entire little lore piece that goes like, once long ago you could look up in the night sky to see a galaxy, stars, a vast ocean, Milky Way, many planets, so on, etc. I'm actually not going to read the whole thing because it sounds really cheesy to say. But the ideal is this is a hook that gets you in here. So it kind of gives a little bit of shadowing saying, hey, we abused the planet, now we're abusing the atmosphere above the planet. So we repeat our same mistakes over and over again. And you are now a pilot that lives in the orbit in these junk fields trying to exist in life. And you're basically harvesting the junk for money, supplies, whatever, to just exist. And you can't exist without collecting the scrap, because not only do you probably need the scrap to build your habitats, make money, but you'll need it just to keep the atmosphere from building up, or the orbit from building up with debris and crushing your space station. And that's basically where it talks down here. The pilot is to clear junk in the orbital fills. The goal is to collect as much junk as possible. It is going to be a very simple, just continuous play game. I'm probably not even going to put a save system in it. You pretty much start the level, you collect junk, and as you grow, it's just going to scale more and more and more junk. My plan is, if I continue with this game, is to build it up and actually do a lot more with it, do like challenge levels. The thing we would be working on would be theoretically a campaign, because you would be a drone pilot actually moving through and building up a space station. Ideally, you'd be able to upgrade the station and do stuff like that, but we'll probably not hit that up in the game. So let's actually just show off the game since I've talked about it for about 5 minutes here now. So the game screen, not much going on. It is really simple. I pretty much just threw together some GUI stuff. I might not even do icons for half of these. So we've got a respawn system, which I'm probably going to copy over to the tank game after we're done. You spawn in here. You spawn in basically, not even the center of the map, although it says we're basically at 0.5. We're actually like negative 2,000 from the center. That's the center right there. There's our nice big GUI. Here's the playing field. And we basically spawn in there. You have a little ship here. Not a very complicated ship. It's basically a drone. It's not meant to look good because, for those who don't really understand this, when you're in space, you do not need an aerodynamic spacecraft. You can pretty much fly a brick around. The reason we don't fly bricks is because usually we bring our aircrafts or bring our spacecrafts back down in orbit, so there needs to be some level of aerodynamic to get out of the atmosphere. In the case of capsules and the orbital craft and everything else, they need to be able to get out in the atmosphere and then back in, so they're aerodynamic. In this case, we don't have a very aerodynamic craft, although it's got a little bit of curves to it just to make it look from looking bland. When I started on this one, I wish I recorded the video. I thought I'd click the video and start. I literally started with a gray cube with a little bit of claws coming off of it and kind of just worked my way up to there. Let me actually zoom in so we get a much better visual of the texture. And so that's basically what it looks like. It's a little pixelated from the scene view because the scene doesn't know how to not do anti-aliasing and stuff. It's a little bit of craft. We got claws here. The claws actually can move. I might do animation on these, but I'm probably not going to do animation on them. Then we got a cannon in the middle. So the cannon actually does shoot, so you can actually shoot. Left click, very blaster-like thing. Effectively, I am using a button that has been warped to make the bullet tip, and then using a trail effect to actually get that to look kind of good. It's nice, very simple. We're probably not going to put audio in the game just because we're in space and we can hear you scream in space. Basically, simple concept. I'm using it as an excuse because I don't want to go dig up audio. I may do some background noise just to make the game not sound bland, because even though it doesn't sound bland right now because we have music going on, that music won't be in the actual game because I'm playing this through the Pretzel app, which I can drag on screen. But yeah, so you can shoot here. You've got little lights coming out here. The lights are just to add ambiance to it to make you feel kind of good about it. Movement is directional based via the screen, so it does not matter what direction you're pointing. If you hit W, you go up. You hit S, you go down. Left to right. You do not brake quickly. You can hit the spacebar to brake slowly. This is actually like retro thrusters, basically. I wish I had the time to do animations to make thrusters pop out, depending on what direction you're moving in. I might add a trail effect to this, just to give you a kind of sense of motion, so you know what direction you're moving in, because unless you have a point of reference, it is really, really hard. But you move around, and your idea is you're supposed to come out and collect these junk objects. These are just literally button textures that I've grabbed, and you can go up to them, and what will happen is it'll highlight when you get close. So it'll go, hey, it's within area range, so you know when you're at area range. I may increase this range just because it was really hard to see, or increase the camera size depending on what I want to do. So you get in here, and you just right-click, and you grab it. It then attaches a rope. The rope render is acting up. I'm going to have to work on it. But you can grab it, you grab these objects, you can then drag them around, they'll follow you around. I've got some kind of friction going on with them just so they don't orbit me, but they will try to orbit. They are on spring joints, so you can see they kind of bungee a little bit. I definitely want to get more bunginess out of this. I really want to get kind of an elastic rope that when you start to come back in and say I was moving this way and then I braked really quickly, I would love to see the ropes kind of go slack, where you would see kind of slack form in the rope where you have the kind of circle. I don't know how else to explain slack, because unless you know what the concept is, it's really hard to explain. But it'd be kind of cool to get that. Probably not going to do it though, just because literally only have a day left to work on this game. But you can drag these around, and the ideal is you're supposed to come over to the scrap drop, press R to release the scrap, and the scrap will be picked up. At the top right, you get points, and so on and so on. We've got a speed counter in the bottom left, position counter here. You have health. If you do collide with scrap, it does damage you. I am going to make that velocity based at some point. It will tell you how many objects are spawned. I want to make this variable, but right now we have a 100 object limit, and it tells you how many lives you have. So if you do die, you can die if you go outside the world border. I am going to make a warning for that. We don't have one right now, and the world border is a pretty distance. We have a blue icon to represent the drop-off point, and we have these icons to represent scrap. These will be more customized to kind of give you a hint at what you actually are looking at visually, so we'll probably work on those. The ideal is that you would have an icon. The icon would scale based on distance, so it would get smaller the further it is away, bigger the closer it is towards you, and it would show you what scrap you're going to pick up. Right now we only have one scrap object, but we can pick these up, and we can just travel around and just roam around here and just look for scrap and pick stuff up. The ideal, of course, that you would be generating much more than 100 objects. You would have thousands of objects of a variety of different sizes and shapes. It would be moving around. I would like to do random encounter events in here too, so say something like you had a disabled station that had some rogue AIs on it, so the rogue AIs would attack you, but in effect it would just be a scrap station, so you can still blow it up and collect scrap. The ideal though is if you do blow up stuff, it's supposed to scatter and make it hard to collect things, so the plan would be to do an upgrade system to allow you to pick up bigger and bigger pieces of scrap. Right now you can pick up 10 pieces of scrap, and it doesn't matter what size they are. And that's probably going to change once I figure out how to do a lot more stuff, because I'm still kind of roughly new to a lot of the mechanics of Unity. So like spring joints are a brand new thing for me. I've never actually messed with them, but we got them working. They are script driven for the most part. They don't add them via script. The spring joint is actually attached to the junk object just to make life easier. So what happens is we call the junk data object in the code and say, hey, attach rope, and it attaches the rope to the spaceship and then enables the spring joint, and it enables the line render. Because the spring joint does not come with a render system. It's separated for good reason, because it lets you make some more complicated objects. I need to work on some dampening effects. You can see the vehicle kind of jitters a little bit. That is because of the spring joints. There's a piece of scrap right there. It is a really simple game. This is something you would expect to see on a cell phone, but I mean, to be honest, 8 hours of work roughly, and 8 hours of sleep-deprived work, and I know that too, so it's not even like highly intuitive or highly intensive. I don't get a word for it. Icons need work though, because you can see how that icon's not rendering. I forgot to turn the other sprite render off for that one. So that icon there is probably the icon that points to these things right here. How the icon system works is we essentially generate a new arrow per junk object, and then the arrow knows when it's supposed to render and not render. The arrows are not part of the UI, they're actually attached to the camera, and they just sit in front of the camera. I could make them UI objects, but I decided that trying to make them work with the scaling of the UI and everything was just not worth the time and effort required. So instead, I made it simple as possible, and they just attach to the camera and they go elliptical. I did get the code offline, so it is not my own code, so I can't claim it. But it is something that I did credit in the code saying where it came from, and it is a really simple code, and I do understand how the code works. It just wanted to make sure I credit the person I got the code from, because it's a lifesaver on getting this to work, because without the navigation system, it would have been really difficult to find scrap. Because what I would have to do is make the play area smaller if we didn't have a navigation system. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so we can do 2 more. Another thing I want to do is do variable rope lengths, because I don't want this to be like this where you're kind of dragging it in a semicircle behind you. I do want it to be more of a bundled net. There's a one piece. Speed is a problem in here, so if you go fast, you have to be able to slow down. And I'm probably going to make it where it takes a lot longer to accelerate based on more junk, because the spring joints don't seem to be doing that on their own. This is all physics engine based, so if you do run into stuff, it will bounce. And of course, what we'll have it do is if I hit something, it will take damage. You see I took 1 point of damage. Really simple to work on that. Like, I really do like the 1 point. I do need to make sure that the objects that are behind you, if they do run into you, don't hurt you. So that's going to be where we're going to check velocity. And the ideal is we want to make a collision vector. So basically you would be multiplying or adding 2 vectors together and to figure out the magnitude of the 2 vectors. So you'd be figuring out the same as if you were simulating a car crash in real life. I actually have the mathematics in a notebook around here for it, because I used to take physics class and actually do know how that works. Okay, so we have 10 scrap metal. So now we want to go find our drop-off point, which is this way, and drop off our scrap. So this is where upgrades would come into handy, is being able to collect more and more objects. And then what we would also do is probably kind of scatter some drop-off points, so that way it didn't feel like you had to go back to the center of the map the entire time. And of course, the base building aspect, if we ever got to it, that would be what would make this really cool, because then you would be able to actually build bases. You see the object here. I need to fix the rope renders. They seem to be rendering on the wrong layer. They drop off there. The collection time does have a timer on it of 20 ticks, which equates to about 1 second, so you drop it off there and it will delay. And it's a pretty simple game. Right now there's nothing really to do with the blaster because we don't have larger pieces of scrap, but pretty cool, at least from my perspective. I'm still relatively new to the whole game building process. I've built prototypes in the past, but to build something like this in a very short period of time, I'm really happy. Even if the quality is a bit low and the texture work needs more work, just being able to get everything put together like this is really nice. Anyways, I'll leave you guys here, and we'll be back with more videos and content, and hopefully I'll actually get a couple videos of working on the game. I have recorded videos of the progress, but there's no audio for them. I will be uploading those, but to be honest, they're probably not worth watching. So I'll see you.